Not so long ago, we put together a list of the 25 best JRPGs on the Nintendo Switch. You guys seem to like it, but you were also quick to point out that it's not a list to rest on, since the RPGs just won't stop coming. And with that, we thought we'd put together a list of all the upcoming RPGs, ranked in order of how hyped we are about them. This time we're considering both Western RPGs, Japanese RPGs, plus any twists on the genre, action, strategy, turn-based, we're considering them all. So join myself, Jordan, James and Juan as we tell you guys our most hyped upcoming RPGs on the Switch. Let's get on with it. How much DISGAEA do you want? Well, it appears NIS America want you to have it all. First we had DISGAEA 5 on the Switch, which was one of our very first reviews for us starting up a channel. Then we recently had DISGAEA 1 complete. If that's not enough, soon you'll be able to add DISGAEA 4 complete plus to your Switch collection. This turn-based strategy RPG was well received when it originally launched on the PlayStation 3 and then later the PlayStation Vita. While we have no doubt that this will still be an excellent time on the Switch and one of the must-have releases, the sheer amount of DISGAEA games in such a short space of time means that we're slightly less hyped about this one than we should be. But if you're a fan of the series, you will no doubt be raring to give this another go when it releases in late October.
Occasionally we like to cheat just a little bit on these lists, and this one's no different. This entry we're going to be putting two games together, Romancing Saga 3 and SaGa Scarlet Grace, a part of one of Square Enix's most niche franchises, and one that rarely makes it to the West. Well, these two entries are: Romancing Saga 3 was originally a Super Famicom game, while Scarlet Grace was on the PlayStation Vita. Neither of these were localized up until now. There's no known release date as of yet, but we know they're on their way when they were revealed at E3. We do love a good retro JRPG, and these look to have a bit of a mystery behind them, and that's what we're looking forward to unwrapping.
Langrisser 1 and 2 are classic strategy RPGs which were almost a rival to Nintendo's Fire Emblem series back in the day. While Fire Emblem has reached its massively hefty heights with the recent release of Three Houses, the Langrisser series has kind of languished. Although it seems they're trying to have a bit of a resurgence as of late, and one of the reasons is this package of HD remakes of the first two games. New visuals, music and retuned gameplay makes this an exciting package for strategy game fans. Whilst there is no secure release date, we only have a vague 2020 window to get excited about and look forward to.
The Alliance Alive was a 3DS game that wasn't given much of a chance to succeed. Like many other 3DS games that came out after the Nintendo Switch's release, it was ignored, despite it being a very good example of the genre, no thanks to the scenario being put together by the dude in charge of the first three Suikoden games. Oh yes, thankfully for those who missed out the first time around, you will have a chance to now play it in HD when it arrives on the Nintendo Switch in early October.
Tokyo RPG Factory are living up to their name with their third JRPG release in as many years. Following on from I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere, we have Oninaki. While the previous two releases were met with lukewarm reception for being a bit too basic, this game has taken a step up in terms of visuals and presentation, and going for an action-orientated gameplay this time around. The story looks to be very powerful, hitting some big notes with life and death being major themes here. We don't have to wait too long for Oninaki, as it will be landing on Western shores a few days from now on August 22nd. If you can't wait that long, there's a demo on the eShop to whet your appetite, plus you can carry your progress over to the full release. We are unaware of any wider physical release for Oninaki in the West, aside from a small amount on the Square Enix online store. If you do miss out on that, you can easily import a Japanese version, which should be far more available and includes English on the cartridge. We'll pop a link below as to where you can find it.
How many Atelier games are on the Switch now? We can't even count, and although we haven't reviewed any for the channel, we do enjoy playing this cheerful little series on the side. And the latest one, Atelier Ryza, looks to be a continuation of what came before. They're never the greatest JRPGs around, but they are surprisingly solid and robust adventures. The Koei Tecmo franchise seems to be in its glory days, and this latest release is coming on November 1st. The big question though is how many Atelier will there be on the Switch by the time the console retires? Place your bets now.
Destiny Connect Tick-Tock Travelers is a new franchise from NIS America. It released in its home country of Japan earlier this year, although to seemingly poor sales, perhaps down to the art style, which is very reminiscent of Western animation from Pixar, Disney and the like. But this time-traveling adventure has got us intrigued and we're excited for its release in late October. Sherry, her friend Pegrio and Isaac, a time-traveling robot, head into the past to save the future. The mechanics may look a little simple, but with a focus on the story, we still want to see what this one is all about. You can't say it doesn't look lovely.
Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch was probably a dream come true for fans of two specific interests when it originally released almost 10 years ago. Has it really been that long? Now, if you're a fan of JRPGs and a fan of Studio Ghibli movies, this was a match made in heaven. Level 5 and Studio Ghibli coming together to produce a quaint but immensely beautiful offering, giving warmth of the heart, lovely visuals and story. The gameplay could have done with a bit more polish, but that's not to bash this must-have JRPG. We will see Ni no Kuni release on the Switch in September. It's worth noting that the PS4 and Xbox One version will be remastered with better performance and stuff like that, while the Switch version is just the original game with no changes as far as we're aware. Slightly disappointing.
Trials of Mana was one of the biggest surprises during E3. Not only was the original finally localised in the Mana collection, but we also got news of a remake of it to come at a later date. Yes, we waited for more than 20 years to get the original Super Nintendo game, only to get a full remake half a year later. The remake of The Secret of Mana wasn't great, but it looks like they've learned a lot from that experience, and this looks so bright and colourful, and for most of us, it will be a completely new prospect. We don't have a release date aside from an early 2020 window, but we are definitely already on board with this one.
The Grandia 1 and 2 HD remaster was announced what seems like ages ago, obviously revealed far too early and got people far too excited. The publisher Gung-Ho seemed to have been taking their time to make sure that these two legendary RPGs are given the love that they need. We hadn't seen or heard much, but those who have witnessed the progress seem to be very positive about the faithfulness put into them. And you won't have to wait long, as Grandia 1 and 2 will arrive in a collection on August 16th, which means that there's every chance it's already out by the time you've seen this video.
Pokémon Sword and Shield may be the most controversial Pokémon game since, well, the last one. Yes, while there is so much hype around the brand new mainline Pokémon game, it seems there's always one caveat that brings a wave of negativity with it. This time in the Galar region, based on the UK, this Pokémon entry shakes things up with wider areas for exploration and Dynamaxing, which makes your Pokémon massive. The main issue comes with the fact that not every Pokémon will be in this game, with Game Freak stating it'd be too much of a task to get every single one ready in time for release. Cue internet outrage, and personally we see where you're coming from. But that's not something that really bothers us just now from our perspective. Let's see what it's like when it releases. It's a shame, but not a deal breaker, and Pokémon Sword and Shield looks to be a title that as polished as ever, despite still not taking that giant ambitious leap forward we always want them to. Sword and Shield are releasing on November 11th.
Next up is an absolute treat for D&D fans. Thanks to the efforts of Skybound Games, we're getting not one, not two, not even 3 classic games. We're getting 5, yes, 5 absolutely top of the line D&D RPGs in the form of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Planescape Torment, Icewind Dale and Neverwinter Nights, all enhanced and including tons of DLC. They're being dished out in 3 different releases, and importantly for us, physically 2. The first 4 mentioned will be released on September the 27th, while Neverwinter Nights will be honouring its name and releasing early in December. For those who haven't played these games, it's almost impossible to state just how amazing and influential they were for the time when they released almost 20 years ago, and these new releases can bring them to an all-new audience who may have missed them the first time around.
So guys, it turns out that Square Enix were listening after all. Final Fantasy VIII has been a constant absentee in Square's drive to release everything they've ever made onto every console possible. The often touted reason being the source code was lost has been put into question thanks to a remaster being developed by Dotemu, known for rejuvenating games like Windjammers, Wonder Boy, Ys, and the soon-to-be Streets of Rage 4. They've got pedigree, with newer models and graphics and hopefully a little bit of balancing to sort out a few of the original game's quirks that stopped it being as well loved as the other games in the series. Still, as you can tell from our constant coverage of Final Fantasy stuff on the Switch, we are very hyped to give this one another go when it releases sometime this year. There also appears to be a physical release planned, which you can see in the link below, which gives us hope that it's much more than the remasters of 7 and 9.
The fact that Witcher 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch is still difficult to believe. One of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, or one that you would never have thought would have graced a Nintendo console, is actually coming. With excellent gameplay, world building, narrative and visuals, it's going to be a massively welcome release on the Nintendo Switch. We can't wait to get our hands on it to see how well it runs on the portable system. What more can we say?
The Outer Worlds is one of the most recent announcements to come out of the blue. Obsidian's alternate future role-playing game looks to be one of the biggest AAA releases on the Nintendo Switch. It will release after the other versions of the game, but being handled by Virtuos, the Chinese studio that handled ports such as Final Fantasy XII and Dark Souls, it looks to be in decent hands. When will we see it on the Switch? Well, we don't know, but considering Obsidian's pedigree with their legendary set of games, we are very excited to see what they've got in store for us with Outer Worlds.
Before we get into our number one hyped RPG coming to the Switch, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little bell to keep up with all our Nintendo Switch content. We have reviews, gameplays and features like these. It's well worth it if you haven't already joined up. Okay, our number one
most hyped RPG
coming to the Nintendo Switch is
Dragon
Quest
XIS. Sure, it may not exactly be a brand new game, considering it released on the PlayStation 4 in the West last year and a year before that in Japan. But
as one of the first games ever announced for the Nintendo Switch, this looks to be the ultimate edition of the critically acclaimed game, even touted as possibly the best game in the legendary series. And yes,
it looks like a far better prospect on the Nintendo Switch than when it released on the PS4. Why?
Well, this time you get orchestrated music, you can play the game in the 2D sprite version which was unique to the Japanese only 3DS release, there's expanded story elements and also voice acting.
It's truly going to be the ultimate edition of the game.
And the RPG we are most hyped for on the Nintendo Switch, and we can't wait for its release in the West on September the 27th.
And there we have it guys, these are the RPGs coming out on the Nintendo Switch that we are most hyped about. Which ones are you hyped about and which order would you place them in? I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of debate in the comments section. Don't forget to watch some of our other ranked list videos, horror, Metroidvanias and the JRPG one. Let's see what you think. See you guys over there.